Hi everyone, it's Phil here from Ashland Leather, and we've got 41 brand new private stock items to go over today. This is the preview video for the private stock event that starts tomorrow, May 7th, and we're going to launch this at 4 o'clock p.m. Central Time. And let's go through each of these items. We'll start off here first with this incredible long wallet. Take a look at the outside of this guy. This is ultraviolet shell cordovan, and this is like a magenta-y sort of purple shade that a lot of people have been really enjoying. And one of our team members here that makes these private stock items, that's her favorite color. So you find a lot of private stock in the ultraviolet shell cordovan. And on the inside here, we've got some extra special leather. This is the 1940s calfskin in the blonde color. We also have this interesting little card pocket on the right side here. This is reverse ultraviolet shell cordovan. And here's a fun belt. This is a black chrome excel belt, and we've lined it with a teal horsehide latigo for a liner. It's a 2-layer belt, which is a little bit different for us, and I really love the black and teal color combination. This belt is actually 36.5 inches if you measure from the pin of the buckle to the center hole here. And here's a really cool looking Johnny the Fox. This is the Tumbled verdigris leather. It has this really interesting depth of color and some of this sort of pebbly look where you get darker peaks and lighter valleys of color. I just really love the Tumbled verdigris. We don't really have any of this leather left, but it's definitely a favorite of mine. And the inside of this Johnny the Fox, we have black reverse shell cordovan. And here's another one of the 41 private stock items. This is Tumbled natural shell cordovan on the Johnny the Fox. Again, we have these darker peaks of this texture. You can actually feel the texture on this tumbled shell, unlike most other shells. The peaks that are darker feel a little bit more like a peak, and then there are valleys underneath that are a little bit lighter in color. And on the inside of this wallet, we have another piece of Colorate reverse shell cordovan, and it has a great Horween ink stamp in the center with lots of interesting character and random die marks. And check out this Fat Herbie. This is a really interesting piece of leather. And normally we don't see a lot of dye marks like this, so it looks like something extraordinary happened. We have these intense dye splatters, and they're sort of like an army green shade on top of the Horween ink stamp there, which is also really neat. So this is an all-reverse green shell cordovan with extra dye marks, including on the inside here too. That is really cool. And here's another really special Fat Herbie. This is the Western texture on the color number 8 shell cordovan. This happens to be my favorite texture that Horween does. Sort of resembles Western tooling leather, a little bit of a floral texture. We have more of that same color 8 Western on the inside. And I have a pair of really interesting Bugs Moran to show you here. This is a denim blue shell cordovan Bugs Moran with a contrasting orange stitch, and I really like the blue and orange together, which is why we have it on the inside also. So we have Amaretto shell cordovan and denim blue shell cordovan on the vertical card slots for the interior of this Bugs. And here's another really cool Bugs Moran, where we're featuring the Horween ink stamp. And this might look a little bit different because it is different. This is actually the dip-dyed Amaretto shell on the outside here. This is the reverse side of the shell cordovan, and the centerpiece here, this is the Amaretto in the center. So it's a little bit brighter and more orange than most of the reverse shell cordovan, and I just think that's a really great look. And on the inside, we have some tumbled blue shell cordovan on top of the Amaretto card holders. And we have a lot of really interesting Capone money clips here. Let's start off with this one. I'm calling this pseudo-psychedelic because we're not really sure where this came from, but it reminds me of the psychedelic shell cordovan, just in a little bit more of like a reddish brown shade, and that is super, super cool. This is another piece that I'm going to have to show to the tannery to see if they can come up with something like this again, because I just love the way that this one turned out. Let me give you a look at the inside too. We've got more of that pseudo shell. It's a little bit more green on the inside. This kind of looks more like the normal psychedelic shell. And I was really happy with this Capone also. So in the center, this is a lizard denim blue shell cordovan underneath some string print cigar shell. And the string prints are a little bit more linear of a texture that I'm trying to show you right here. It's a neat texture, especially on top of that lizard. I'm surprised at how well these two go together. Let me give you a look at the inside, because I think this is where it shines. I love this denim blue lizard on the interior of this wallet, especially with the green in the center. It sort of makes the blue look a little bit more aqua and green. And here is another thing that we've never seen before. We're calling this Phantom shell cordovan, and it's sort of like the essence of that Western texture from earlier, but flatter and more smooth. And I think that is really neat. It's almost like it's hiding in there, which is why we're calling it phantom. And maybe this angle with the reflection will show how that appears a little bit better. It's a little bit more random and more flat as opposed to the normal Western shell. And we put this texture on top of some whiskey shell Cordovan, and it looks like it's a little bit darker than the normal whiskey that we see. It's a little bit darker, more red. But on the inside, we have some interesting reverse cigar on the left and right, and we have one hidden card slot under here. And I have a couple more belts that I'd like to show you. These, again, are a little bit different than our normal belts. These are actually 2 layers of leather. So on this one, we have natural chrome excel with a little whip stitch as a hand stitch to hold the buckle parts in place. But the backer on this is a little bit more of like an orange horsehide. I'm not actually sure which leather this is. It might just be like an orange latigo, but I really like how the natural chrome excel and that go together. And this one is a 34-inch belt, and the third and final belt to show you today. If you watched the video from yesterday's YouTube video, we talked about woolly chrome excel, and this is woolly chrome excel with a Western texture on it. And it sure does take that texture really, really well. I really like the way that this one has worked out. And on the backside of this one, we've included some natural chrome excel. So this natural chrome excel will be the part that touches your jeans, and the Western will be facing the world. This one is a 36-inch. And here's a couple new things here. This is a lighter with a shell Cordovan sheath around it. So this is color 8 reverse. We thought this worked out pretty well. We've been using these in our shop here for the last couple of weeks. And here's another one in black reverse shell Cordovan. And check out this Capone money clip. This is, you guess who made this one in our shop, the fan of the ultraviolet that's from Lupe. So Lupe made this with Western ultraviolet on the centerpiece here with reverse ultraviolet, and Lupe picked out some really great dye marks for this particular piece. On the left side and on that right side, you can see there's a little bit of gold hardware here for the money clip in the center, and on the interior of this one, more of this random dye marks. It's more of like a splattered look on the interior. And we have a couple of our key buddies here. This one is in green shell Cordovan, and it has a little bit of crease marks on the edges here, which I think clean it up a little bit. I like that little upgrade on this rare shell color for the Key Buddy. And speaking of rare shells for Key Buddies, this is cigar shell Cordovan on the Key Buddy, and that's the more brown, more of like a true brown when compared to the color 8. The color 8 is more burgundy, but if you don't want any red in your brown shade, the cigar is the way to go. And here's a really, really neat Tony the Ant. So we've got raw denim shell Cordovan on top of some Amaretto shell Cordovan and a blue stitching on the outside. That is really cool looking. We've sort of complemented that same look on the inside. So raw denim Amaretto with a great Horween ink stamp in the center. You'll notice the hot stamp on the bottom right is what we call the baby Ashland logo. And let's wheel in the rest of the items here. So much great stuff today. Here is a Fat Herbie, something we've never done before. So we've got reverse green shell Cordovan on top of a yellow horsehide latigo, and I like the green and yellow together very much. We got that same sort of look on the inside. And here we have a really neat Johnny the Fox. This is tumbled cigar, but it looks like there was another debossing placed on here, so you get this layered texture effect on this particular piece of leather, and that's really neat. And on the inside, check out this left piece. The random dye marks on this reverse color 8 interior are really cool. Here's another Johnny the Fox, and I think this is the last fox in the video here. This is Amaretto shell Cordovan on the outside. That's my favorite shell color. Check out the inside. We've got some reverse cigar shell Cordovan on the left and right, and the center piece here is the standard cigar shell Cordovan. Here's another one of those phantom pieces of shell. This is the phantom whiskey shell, and it's a little bit more red and orange than most of the whiskey I see, but I think the color intention here is still that whiskey shell Cordovan. But take a look at that texture, and this again is why we call it phantom. It's there, but it's hard to see. And I think phantom is just about the perfect word for it. You can see the essence of the texture right here. And let's take a look at the inside of this one. We have more whiskey shell Cordovan, but the center 2 card slots here are that phantom texture. And here's another Tony the Ant. And this might have to be my favorite just because I love the raw shell Cordovan. This is a raw shell Cordovan Tony the Ant that has been hand stitched. And if you love patina, the raw shell Cordovan is as good as it gets as far as I've seen. I've never seen something have as dramatic of a patina as the raw shell Cordovan. So we've got a really clean looking one here with raw shell on the outside and on the inside. And guess who made this wallet? This is another Lupe creation, but this piece on the bottom, the bill slot here, this is actually a little bit more of a rare color. This is the marbled magenta, and we don't even see magenta shell I haven't seen it in a while. So the marbled magenta is even more rare. The marbled magenta is a little bit more flat and even in color. It's like a little bit more pink than the marbled ultraviolet, which still has more of those purple shades to it. And we've got this marbled magenta on top of some reverse ultraviolet. And on the inside here, we still have that ultraviolet in the center. That's a continuation from the reverse on the outside, and then reverse ultraviolet card holders. And let's shift over to some watch straps here. And again, guess who made this one? This is another Lupe special, and I'm really happy with the concepts that Lupe is coming up with. So this is reverse ultraviolet with some Western ultraviolet shell Cordovan for the keepers. That looks really great. And these are also 2-layered straps. So the part on this side that's going to touch your wrist is actually the Western texture on ultraviolet, and then the outside that will face the world has all these random dye marks. If you caught yesterday's video and you were into the Cavalier Chrome Excel, this is a piece of Cavalier to show you. And this is a color of Cavalier called Harvest. It's a little bit more yellow, which is really nice. But take a look at the flesh side too. It's also a little bit yellow. It's like a yellowy brown, which is really neat. So this is a single layer thickness of our Apple Watch band. And here's the leather that I know a few people are going to be really interested in. People have been talking about horsebutt recently. This is horsebutt Chrome Excel, but this is actually the shell part from that horsebutt. So you get this really dense membrane that is known as the shell Cordovan, but it's tanned a little bit differently. It's tanned a little bit more like the Chrome Excel. It's sort of like a hybrid between shell Cordovan and Chrome Excel. So we've got this black color on the outside and on the inside. And let's stick with that black for a moment here. So we've got a one-shot card holder, and this is a pit tanned Chrome Excel horse butt strip. This is pretty similar to the last piece we looked at, although this does not have the shell inside of it. This is the part just above those pieces of shell Cordovan on the hide. And another black Chrome Excel piece here. This is our machine gun jack, but this is the standard Chrome Excel that you're probably familiar with. This is tanned on a steer hide. So it's not the Cordovan, it's not the horsebutt stuff, but it's the standard stuff that you find on most footwear. We've made a couple different machine gun jacks here. This one has a silver set of hardware, and the other one has an antique brass set. And let's chat a little bit more about the Cavalier. So again, this is the Harvest Cavalier, but we put it on a wallet this time. This is the Capone money clip with the Harvest Cavalier on the outside. We've got a nice yellow stitching also, gold hardware. And on the inside here, we've got some blue Rockford leather, which the blue and yellow seem to go really well together. And let's show you a couple more key buddies. This is the brown Chrome Excel on the key buddy, and this is something we didn't make as a standard item, but probably should be. I really like the brown Chrome Excel for an item like this. It should pair perfectly with our brown Chrome Excel belts. And we have one more special key buddy here. This is the Whiskey Shell Cordovan. So here we have a Frank the Enforcer in probably the last piece of psychedelic shell that you're ever going to see. We did use all those 2 shells that we had from before, but the tannery actually found one more piece of the psychedelic shell. They're still trying to reproduce the look of this psychedelic shell, but they just haven't been able to reproduce it perfectly just yet. So we did have a couple little pieces left over. This is not new stuff from the tannery. This is just left over from the first run. So we got this Frank the Enforcer here with the psychedelic shell on the front 2 card holders, and a reverse black on the back. Speaking of reverse black, check this one out. This is one of the most intense pieces of reverse black shell Cordovan I've seen. Tons of random dye marks splatter on this one, on the front and on the back. And we do have one 3-shot card holder. This is raw natural shell Cordovan with some great figuring in the grain, especially in the bottom right front here. So we have that on top of some reverse natural shell. And on the back side, we have more raw natural, again on the reverse natural. And this one is also hand stitched. And here's probably the last piece of psychedelic that you'll see for a bit. This is a Lexington Key Case that we're able to cut out of just a little bit of the remnants from the shells we had. And here's another raw natural shell Cordovan piece. This is the Bugs Moran raw natural, but this one has a vertical card slot orientation on the inside. The cards go in this direction, but there's also hidden card slots underneath. Here's another beautiful wallet. The English Tan Dublin happens to be our most popular color in leather right now. It's really nice. We've got this English Tan Dublin Bugs Moran with the vertical card slots on the inside. Here's another vertical card slot Bugs Moran, but this is the classic color 8 shell Cordovan, and just check out how nice that piece of shell is on the interior and on the exterior. And here's another one of my favorites from today. This is raw natural shell Cordovan on the outside. I love the way that this is going to patina, but on the inside, I like this combination a lot. I don't think we've ever seen this before. We have cigar shell Cordovan on top of whiskey shell Cordovan, and this one has a nice little border stitch in a blue stitching. And I think that turned out really well. And the last item of the day, this is a tall Tony the Ant, something that we've been doing a little bit more frequently. And this is in the garnet shell Cordovan color. This is about as red of a piece of shell Cordovan that you will see. For a bunch of years, this color was known as color 2 or ruby shell Cordovan, but now the tannery is calling it garnet. And it's really nice. It's subtle. Sometimes it can appear more like a color 8 at certain angles, and other times it's a little bit more like a lollipop red. So wow, we have so many, 41 great private stock items. There's no way I'm going to be able to pick a favorite. It's going to be sad to see some of the psychedelic stuff go away, and who knows when we'll be able to see that again. But I'm always really pleased with these. We're trying to do them every month now. The private stock stuff, it seems like every time I get so many things that I've never seen before, like this yellow and reverse green, or even this marbled magenta with reverse ultraviolet. There's a ton of stuff in here I've never seen before, so we're keeping it fresh and keeping it exciting. If you want to pick up one of these, all these items are going to be available on our website, and the website's ashlandleather.com. You can find it on the sale tab at the navigation on top. And these are all going to be live tomorrow, Friday, May 7th at 4 p.m. Central Time. So thanks for checking it out, and take care.